The Black Ship, Chapter 57. Oneris, 2, 4156 Standard Astorian Principality Calendar, December 3rd, 26702 Standard Terran Calendar. Rightful Honor War Room. Duke Cornelius Draymore entered the war room of his battleship, his imposing presence silencing the discourse of the officers and other representatives in attendance. He stopped after taking his first 2 steps, the door closing behind him as he examined the room. He gave every division commander, high-ranking commanding officer, and chosen representatives from some of his most important allies, including Hadrian Tygan, who, as he expected, was sitting next to his reserved seat at the head of the table. He advanced, eliciting a series of contained exhales from almost everyone present as he moved to his seat. Ever dignified, stout, and stoic, he sat down and connected with the ship's network, bringing up a holographic projection of the Fanher system. It wasn't a live projection, or even a recently updated one, but rather an old record. Next to it was the report transmitted by one Andrew Caiston, given to him by Lazkit Tirome, the highest-ranking commanding officer of the survivors from the dispatched fleet, to protect the system and, most importantly, Rankov against a pirate horde led by the infamous Ezkit Raventomb Adante. "My Lord Regent," one of his commanders spoke up, but held his tongue when he glanced his way. Wisely, he lowered his head, silently retracting his interruption. Then summoned a projection of 2 different news outlets, both frozen in a specific segment. On the right was the Caiston-controlled media, while on the left was a Finnegan-owned news anchor. With a thought and a flicker of his eyes, the one on the right began to play. A relatively short nobleman with brown hair, barely 6 feet tall, bearing the sigil of House Caiston on the shoulder cape he was wearing, began to speak from his comfortable seat. Certainly. The second princess, Clara Astor, took this unfortunate assault from a despicable ruffian who fancies himself as a pirate lord, as nothing more than an opportunity to further the so-called prince's claim to the throne. Don't be as foolish as to believe her actions were guided by something beyond opportunism. The hostess of the news broadcast, a mature, dark-skinned lady dressed in a professional suit befitting that of a noblewoman, leaned on her desk. "Our investigations and interviews with survivors from the conflict align with your claims, Lord Neolo. However, it is noted that Prince Loyalist troops were dispatched to the surface of Rankov to aid against the pirate menace. Furthermore, the presence of Royal Marines was confirmed on the battlefield as they secured the fabricator complex that the pirates were after. It was thanks to the princess's forces that Rankov's defenders were able to rally around and cleave through the vile enemy." Neolo Caiston nodded once. "This I won't deny, yet is it not more proof that the second princess only cared about what she could gain? Once the defenders led by House Gartak rallied, her forces were extracted with due haste. Had she, or her pretender brother for that matter, truly done what she did for the safeguard of the principality, she would have stayed on Rankov and helped purge the pirates wholesale," he scoffed, crossing his arms over his chest. "Then again, she did what she does best. A third of House Gartak was purged. That she was able to refrain from her murderous tendencies to such a low number is impressive, to say the least. Almost commendable in all due honesty, given the circumstances and the failure of its previous head," proclaimed Neolo with practiced rhetoric. "Now that you've brought House Gartak to the forefront, Lord Neolo, may I ask if they are to be removed from their position now that the second princess has appointed a new head, Volramir Gartak, as the new head of his house? How sure are we that the loyalties of that minor house remain under the rightful authority of the most venerable House Caiston?" asked the hostess. "An excellent question. House Gartak is an independent minor house. As such, they are free to declare their fealty and support to whomever they wish in this conflict. Duchess Emerald, his Lord Regent the Prince, or remain neutral. To my knowledge, the now Count Volramir Gartak has shown great wisdom in this matter, choosing to retain his house's declared stance of neutrality. It shows considerable courage, too, for to deny the second princess a demand surely made is no small gesture," explained the brown-haired man as he ran his fingers across his thin beard, while high-end cybernetic eyes stared back at the hostess without doubt. "Most impressive traits," she replied, nodding sagely. "Lord Neolo, there are tongues, most of them of commoners and other lesser nobles, who say that were it not for the second princess, Commander Kalen, and other key figures, such as the mysterious Osgar von Sniffelgotch, rumored to be a potential lone wolf pledged in secrecy to the princess, and her elite fighter squadron, the Composters, led by the now infamous Baron Wyatt Staples, the pirates would have caused much more damage to Rankov. It is they who cut them off and trap the pirates on the planet, denying them escape before moving against the rest of Raven Tomb's fleet. Are any of these claims true? Niolo scoffed. Claims spoken by nothing but deluded ignoramuses. Honor belongs to the brave, loyal, and capable men and women serving under House Cayston, for it is they who paid the price. Their rightful victory stolen away by Talons striking from the dark on equally stolen ships that, rightfully, belong to his Lord Regent. Why, I can go as far as to offer the possibility that the assault on our dockyard station, the abolisher of indignity in the Ralza system, was part of a larger plan to bring ruination to the Fanher system and to Rankov itself. It is no secret that they made their attack blatant and broadcast their devastation for all to see. They first slash across our hands, causing us to recoil and tend to the wound, so they can claim to be morally upright and righteous when they snatch not only victory and honor from those truly worthy, but hold one more cub of the bear the next moment? If it is some sort of jest, I see no humor in it. Only the despicable actions of a cowardly prince who sends his sister to do what he is unwilling to do. The projection stopped abruptly, but none questioned why. There simply was no need to ask when Duke Cornelius turned his gaze to the monitor occupied by Marquis Tamarin Cayston. The ancient man didn't flinch under his gaze. Rather, he met it with as much dignity and security as he could manage. "Your grandson handled that well, Tamirin," Cornelius began, straightening his posture. "Have you managed to contain the spread of confidential information?" Tamirin nodded slowly, showing reverence and respect. "My agents have achieved that before the interview was broadcast, my Lord Regent. Time was of the essence. Alas, we were unsuccessful in taking the first step in the propaganda campaign set around this most embarrassing incident." "You dare reduce your lack of action and proper response to a mere embarrassing incident, Tamarin?" asked Hadrian, glaring at the man on the screen. "A pirate lord has scored an unprecedented victory. A Pyrrhic one, but one in which he absconded with the information inside valuable data cores that, and I cannot stress this enough, he destroyed in the process. That vault should have been decommissioned centuries ago at the latest. Why was a minor house allowed to make use of it at all, let alone play a role in Royal Navy operations? I know not the reason behind the Royal Navy affairs, but the secrecy of that secure vault was, if nothing else, well guarded and confidential. I truly do not know how three simpletons were able to achieve what they did, nor why the Fourth Fleet decided to make use of it. We will have our answers once the Pretender Prince is removed and Duchess Emerald is dealt with properly," Tamirin replied, earning a few nods from officers present and a few representatives, such as Federico Cintor, Felicity's replacement after her great failure, and Rodrigo and Javier Wunder sitting next to his uncle. Cornelius remained unimpressed. He knew Tamirin too well to believe that he'd pass up the opportunity to sing a dagger into someone's gut if he could. "Do so forgive me for what I'm about to say, Marquis Hadrian," Tamirin pressed on. "But since you brought up the issue of great failures and shame being downplayed, are you not guilty of doing just that? Members of your house arrived on a planet governed by House Arante with hostile intentions, breaking the laws of neutrality in a most dire way. They are but a minor house of little renown, to be sure, yet offense was dispensed. And now House Guimore stands with the Pretender Prince guided by contemptuous spite." There it is, the poison dripping from the man's silver tongue. Cornelius thought as he watched Hadrian closing his eyes for a moment, shame burning in his chest. Had such declarations been hyperbole or used as nothing more than barbed wire to scratch his skin, his closest confidant would have exploded in fury and refutation. He could not do the latter, and relying on the former would make him look like an inept fool. He did the wise thing and chose deflection. "The faults of my house are mine to deal with. If they are truly guilty, I will have them punished most severely," Hadrian replied, his eyes focused on Tamarin for a long, fiery moment. "And if they were encouraged by outside forces, then their punishment will be less severe. But they shan't go unpunished." "Enough!" Cornelius spoke firmly, and the room fell silent once more. "House Guimore's support is unfortunate, but not a tragedy." With a thought, the projection on the left began to play, and the voice of the pearl-skinned man echoed in the room. In a turn of events that can only be described as masterful, Commander Redford Calen, the Vorpal Strike, has managed to repel an attack orchestrated by the dreaded pirate lord Esket Raventomb Adante on the Fanger system in Cayston territory. In a show of true honor, Her Majesty, the second Princess Clara Astor, was at the head of an operation that turned the fury of the Principality against delusional invaders seeking plunder, slaves, and destruction upon the world of Rankov and beyond. The lackluster and poor response of House Caiston saw their fleet underpowered and outnumbered by pirate scoundrels, inflicting minimal losses upon the enemy. It was through the leadership of our beloved princess, the tactical and strategic genius of Marquis Kalon, and the fortitude of their troops that permitted them to formulate an effective plan of action that isolated groups of pirates to be destroyed both in space and on the surface of Rankov, the commentator said, turning to face to another camera as he continued, stopping only for a brief moment to adjust his tie and suit. What was projected to be a terrible loss and the start of a large-scale raiding operation on multiple systems was culled by striking the head of the Viper before it could open its maw to show its fangs. It is beyond doubt that House Caiston would have been the most affected, as the Fanher system was the opening door for a disaster of incalculable proportions. A disaster that, by the wisdom of our legitimate prince, was averted, proving that beyond this succession dispute, his primary focus is and always will be our beloved principality. Traitors to his claim they are, but subjects to the principality they remain. The pirate lord may have escaped with his miserable life and a paltry force compared to what he arrived with, running away in shame and defeat like a beaten mongrel, but his victory was denied, our principality was protected, and we've received an official confirmation that over 100 fighter pilots have become aces, with multiple bronze aces, 4 silver aces, and 2 great golden aces. The elusive Platinum Sword and the Wolfhound himself. The man who raided the gallant venture alone and succeeded, the commentator exclaimed energetically as he sang every praise he could muster. Truly, Marquis Tamarin Caiston and his entire house should be grateful that Her Majesty was conducting her own operations in nearby systems. Otherwise, further tragedy would have certainly befallen dozens of systems and worlds. Rejoice, sons and daughters of the Principality. The treacherous self-proclaimed Lord Regent will be deposed in due time, the Council of Nobles liberated, and our prince shall, at long last, sit on the throne as it is his right. Loyalty is its own reward, the commentator exclaimed before turning to another angle. In other news, we have the public announcement of the great House Guimore pledging their support to our prince's claim. The projection stopped as abruptly as the first one. I recognize my brother's touch in that piss-poor speech. Theatrics favoring sentimentality and objective truths, said Maurice Ishtal, unamused through his screen. Poor it may be, but effective, commented Federico. As frustrating as their propaganda is, the mention of that filthy commoner pretending to be, what, a knight from Tall Tales is a personal insult upon House Centaur and many others. Wouldn't you agree, Javier? He asked with a little conspiratorial smirk. Javier's right eyebrow twitched in annoyance. Silence your tongue, Centaur. I've dealt with the likes of your house to last me 3 lifetimes. What my opinions of that man are remain mine to know only. Or are you eager to bring shame upon your house, the likes that would leave your name erased and forgotten? Federico lost his smirk, his visage turning into a stoic mask, even as he wished to strangle the pale-skinned man with his bare hands for daring to bring his lost cousin's folly against him. A hand landed on his shoulder, and he turned to see the calm and unbothered Octavia Anderson staring into his eyes. Shrugging off her hand, he took a deep breath before giving the young Wunder a final glare. Having had enough of the petty feuds, Cornelius set his arms on the table and slowly stood up, drawing every gaze upon him. Once more we've suffered a blow to our dignity and honor, delivered not with malice, but with righteous fury set against a common threat. This is precisely why I have claimed the title of Lord Regent. Raventomb is but one of numerous pirate lords we have so foolishly tolerated their existence. Countless other smaller groups and organizations peck at the exposed flesh of our principality. This must end. Our enemies are many, our allies conditional. Why must we conform ourselves to meager glories when there is so much to be gained? With a thought, he removed the 2 projections, leaving only the holographic representation of the Fanher system active. My niece and Redford Kalon have struck when such an attack should have never happened in the first place. Partially, I will admit my fault for weakening your territory, Marquis Tamarin. My Lord Regent mustn't apologize. House Caiston serves House Draymore with diligent fealty. Operation Hammerblow takes precedence for the greater future that can only be gained through your leadership, my Lord Regent. Small sacrifices are necessary for victory to be achieved, replied Tamirin, lowering his head in respect. Just how many more sacrifices will it take, Jasmine? Curse you, Joseph. Curse you and your spineless idealism, Cornelius thought, as momentary sadness gripped his heart, but his face showed nothing of it. Not a single hint of weakness in his strong-as-titanium visage. Then let it be so. He sat down, resting a hand over the other in a solemn, dignified posture. My nephew has scored more than a symbolic victory this time. His power and position are growing stronger, in large part due to my niece's bout of good fortune. With House Guimore now pledged to him, others may soon follow. The claim of Duchess Emerald and the claim to the throne by Prince Alexander is yet another rival to contend against. I want everyone to redouble your efforts to secure our position and claim. They will fall before the might of Draymore's hammer, my Lord Regent, Octavia Anderson said firmly. My cousin's unjust execution will be rectified and his death avenged, for vicious is our vengeance. Glory befalls the worthy. Ours is knowledge and wisdom. Our forefathers smile upon us. The hammer of Draymore is strong. Cornelius listened as house mottos were chanted enthusiastically in a display of loyalty and fealty. He nodded slowly, pleased by their reaction. Go now. You are dismissed. Hadrian, please stay with me. There are certain details I wish to discuss with you in private. Of course, my Lord Regent, Hadrian replied. One by one, every officer present gave their respects to their liege until it was time for the representatives to do the same, either by leaving the room or disconnecting. When only Hadrian Tigan remained, Cornelius didn't wait any further to make his voice known. I am displeased by the actions of your house, Hadrian, Cornelius began, not giving the older man a chance to interject. I do not find fault in you or in the attempt at kidnapping in itself. How many feuding houses have not done the same in the past to settle their quarrels? My own niece is doing something similar against the Castons as we speak. I find umbrage, however, in the fact that members of your house went after nothing more than adopted commoners. The simple family of a man who gained his elevation through deeds and actions, he frowned. Your kin planned on assaulting innocents for their own gain, Hadrian. And they will be thoroughly punished once, if negotiations for their return with House Arante are concluded. I can assure you that the stain delivered upon House Tigan, now reflected onto you, my Lord Regent, will be cleansed, promised the older man. May their punishment be in accordance with their misdeeds, and no more than that, Hadrian. We know such ambitions were planted there by another. Whispers of rewards, suggestions of paths to take. Nothing that can be proven, at least, Cornelius said, moving a hand to pinch the bridge of his nose. A bear he is not, my liege, but a quadrupedal reptile pretending to be something he is not, Hadrian cursed, spitting at the thought of Tamirin's sly grin. Were I to accuse him, I'd be nothing more than a parody of myself, puppeteered as he laughs and mocks openly. It is vexing, my liege. The man is beyond experienced and is a master at his craft. His involvement is clear, but a gardener who only tosses the seed on the soil has no fault in it taking root. Cornelius sighed deeply. Now my worries are twofold with this incident. Raventomb's defeat pushed him out, a fact we must be thankful for. But his strategic victory puts us all in great peril. It matters not if it takes him years to reorganize his forces. The fact remains that either he or a successor will come. Eventually. He may come far sooner than that. It is imperative that my position as Lord Regent is officially recognized as soon as possible. A deep hum echoed in his powerful chest. The totem will be strong again. It shall only be possible through your guidance, my Lord Regent, replied Hadrian. After a few seconds of silence, he spoke. Pardon me, my liege, but what other affliction clouds your heart? Before the Duke could answer, he received a priority call from Admiral Natalien Wunder. Accepting it, Natalien and surprisingly his daughter, Veronica, appeared on the holographic display. Veronica, my daughter, it is good to see you again, said Cornelius, sincere and with a small, warm smile on his lips. His daughter, in turn, bowed her head deeply. Content with seeing her, he turned to Natalien. Admiral. My Lord Regent, replied Natalien with a head bow. I requested to speak to you as soon as possible to inform you that we will reach the rendezvous point on time. We had an encounter with a trio of mercenary ships, but they dared not engage the venerable prize. We captured a small corvette-class mercenary ship after our most recent jump, Imperium configuration heavily modified. Lady Veronica led the assault herself and claimed the heads of many mercenaries. Her performance during this campaign was admirable, said the man, mostly succeeding at hiding his disgust. Cornelius set his gaze upon his daughter again, this time seeing the numerous marks on her armor. Small dents, gashes, and rents. But other than that, she looked fine, unharmed, and yet he couldn't stop himself from asking, "My daughter, are you harmed?" "My lord father, I've only received minor injuries. The greatest damage was a pierced shoulder and 2 broken ribs. They are already healing. I will not break so easily." "It was enlightening to face worthy opponents," she said with an otherwise charming smile. The blonde-bearded man felt his fatherly heart skip a beat before he forced it to return to normal. "Heal, my daughter. I shall need you strong and at your full capabilities." "Always, my lord father," she said, elated beyond belief, before dropping to a knee in reverence. As promised, 200 heads of traitor nobles rest in the cargo bay, cryogenically preserved. "These mercenaries are additional mementos for your glory, my lord father." As he stared at his daughter, his Veronica, guilt twisted in the pit of his stomach, refusing to let go until he forced himself to pay attention to the admiral. "Anything of relevance to report, Natalien?" "Nothing more than additional confirmation that Duchess Emerald contracted their services and a considerable armory claimed in your name, my Lord Regent." "What are we to do with the ship?" he asked. "Tow it if possible, break it apart if you must. The venerable prize is large enough to fit a corvette class inside of it, even if it is in pieces," ordered the Duke. "I will make arrangements, my lord." "Sir, I assume you are aware of what happened in the Fanher system?" asked Natalien cautiously. "Keenly so, Admiral." "Why do you ask?" asked Cornelius, intrigued. Natalien frowned. "It is a childish petition of mine, my lord." The following silence was the confirmation he needed to continue. "If I were ever to face the Wraith in combat, my Lord Regent, I humbly request permission to eliminate the Gnat once and for all." "The Wraith?" Cornelius asked, momentarily confused, then he remembered. "Ah, you speak of Baron Wyatt Staples, the Wolfhound?" "The same, my lord," he replied. Veronica lifted her head to pay close attention to the conversation. The insult delivered upon House Wonder must be rectified with his life. To treat Javier like a worthless commoner prisoner? To return him to us without demands of ransom? The insolence is too much to bear. Cornelius thought for a moment, then gave his firm, solid answer. "If you are ever in combat, Admiral, you are to capture him alive and be brought to me, unharmed, whole, and sane. I will issue this same command to all our forces. Capturing him will be enough to salve the wound left on your house's honor. Is that understood?" Natalien doubted for a second, but then bowed his head. "Understood, my Lord Regent." "It shall be done as you command." "Father? My Lord Duke?" Cornelius heard his daughter and Hadrian call out in unison after hearing his unusual and very specific command. "It is he who worries me so, Hadrian. Far too many times has his name appeared before me or come across the headlines of a significant event. Now he is a gold ace, no doubt Redford's pupil or protege. He always said he'd want one." A distant smile appeared on his lips for a full second before dying out. "But why, father?" asked Veronica. The Lord Regent turned to his daughter. "It is quite simple, my daughter. I suspect I will find joy in meeting a man like him. He intrigues me."